and they took us out individually and put us in different vehicles. So we weren't together any longer. And I was really worried about Victoria. And I kept saying, okay, so where's she going? What are you doing with her? You know, maybe we should stay together. Why are you separating us then? And she's going to be taken. She's okay, da-da-da-da-da, you know. I was worried about her. And the next thing, we're all in a caravan traveling away, and one vehicle peels off. And I don't know where they went. And I don't know I didn't know who was in the vehicle. In fact, maybe 2 vehicles left. I'm not sure, because being in the caravan, and I'm in the back seat with darkened out windows, with an officer guy with me, and then somebody driving, and we travel a long ways. I know we got to Bend. I don't, you know, I'm not geographically challenged here. I've never been in the States, so I don't even know where we are. So we went to Bend, and then we went to. And then they said, oh, we got another couple hours or something, and I'm saying, okay. And then it turns out we're going to be all night, and we're going to Portland. And we are driving 80 miles an hour through towns that have 35-mile-an-hour zones, and we're just like barreling through here, and I'm going, so how is it that we drive 80 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zones? I mean, I don't get why we're doing this. And they ended up taking us to I don't know what it was called. All I know is that there was a lot of people. They had a big roll-up gate like a garage, and they brought us in cars 2 at a time and let us out of the vehicles. We did, along the way, they did slow down at one point, and there was other people that they were bringing in. I remember them saying that they had picked up Pete Santilli, because I saw him get out of one car and got put into another one, and he was talking. They kept saying, he just never shuts up. That's what they said. And I know Pete, and that was obviously him, and they put him in the car, and then he was in our caravan. So we ended up with, you know, by the time we got there was more people than I knew, and we were just gaining people, but I never could find Victoria. I was worried when we stopped at the bathroom. When I stopped, everywhere I stopped, I kept saying, we only stopped one time, and then we got there, and I said, so where is Victoria? Well, nobody seemed to know what happened to Victoria. And then we get together into this van. They put us all in this van, and there's no Mark either. And the only thing that happened with Mark was when we got in the vehicle, and Victoria and I were in the back, Mark was sitting in front of us in the club wagon, whatever the heck you call it. It has a lot of seats. And Mark was really mad at Victoria because she was kind of crying and really talking fast, and but she'd just been through a trauma. And he kept hollering at her. I just thought he was very unkind. He was, and I had to keep it, and I kept saying to him, knock it off, because, you know, everybody deals differently with trauma, and just leave her alone. You know, she's just a young girl, and leave her alone. And so now I haven't seen Mark or Victoria when we get into the paddy wagon, or whatever the heck you want to call this caravan thing. And I haven't seen them, and I'm worried about her. And they took us into the federal prison over there, I guess. I don't know what it is, whatever it is. Anyway, they took us there. I've never been to these places, so I don't know. And they made us take off our things and put shackles on our feet, and I had shackles on when we got into the other car, because I remember that I couldn't climb up into it because I have a broken foot. I had a real hard time trying to climb into it.
Now, there's no warrant for your arrest, and no charges have been levied. They just...
No, we had no idea. We had no idea even why we're here. We had not even been charged with anything. When I was in the car coming, when they put us in separate vehicles, the one man that was sitting next to me in the back, and the officer, said to me, started to read me, or he wanted me to sign this paper. He says, can you read this and sign it? And I said, I don't have any glasses and I can't see it. I can't read it, so I can't sign anything I can't read. And he says, well, let me tell you what it is. And so he put a recorder. And he said, and he started to read me like and I said, is that the Miranda rights? I know what Miranda rights. And I said, so does that mean we're under arrest? Well, yes. I said, what are we charged for? Something about conspiracy. I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea.
Seems a little vague.
Yeah, and I'm going, so I didn't sign the paper. He just recorded that I knew that that's what it was. And all the way there, he kept trying to get me to talk about things because he said, you don't have to talk, but anything you say, everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't want to talk to him about anything except the Constitution. So I'm trying to teach him the Constitution all the way there as much as I can. Then I'm singing. Then I just keep singing hymns. And I said, well, if you don't give me a radio, then you're going to have to hear my songs, because whatever, because that's a lot of hours. And so that's the way it was for hours till we got to there. They took all of our things. They took my wedding ring off. They took everything and put us in a cell. It took a long time through the night. They put me up in a room. I was there probably for a few hours before they brought us back down. I might have been there 3 hours, 4 hours max. And then they brought us back down and they took us in that we were supposed to go see a federal judge. I was sitting and then all the guys were back in together. And then of course there was just myself, so they keep me separated from them. But we're in the same elevator in the same van that moves us a half a block with about 3,000 officers and 1 million lights, and everything stopped. It was like, a really great parade for a half a block. It was really crazy. And then we talked to some lady that's something to do with the court. I just remember her name, but I don't really know how she represents. Something about she can't represent everybody. I mean, we have to have a panel and figure out an attorney and all that stuff. But anyway, that's what happened. And after that, we don't know much of anything because we don't know what's going on in the outside world. We don't know if anybody knows what happened. We don't know what happened at the meeting, if people actually showed up. I did learn all that stuff later. In fact, last night, there was a lot more information that was given to me last night that did confirm that there were between 150 and 300 people that showed up at the meeting, and the family got to the meeting, and there was nobody to teach the Constitution, and nobody seemed to know, but they did hear. Because there had been a newspaper, a news reporter from ABC that was 10 minutes behind us. He was going to be ahead of us. He had been down at the resource center with us, and he left. He was going to be ahead of us, but because of something he had to do, he ended up being 10 minutes behind us. So he only got to the end of it, and he said he only got to the first vehicle, and he got some of that shot, but nobody could hear or see because we were up around the bend. They could not hear the shots, and they couldn't see anything. So whatever Mark said, he has no idea because he was not there. And all of them stated that they could not hear or see any of the shooting, because it was up around the bend and because of maybe the snow and the trees or whatever and we were probably a mile or two from them, and they could hear nothing, and so they didn't know.
What happened to the footage from your camera?
The FBI the feds still have it. They got my stuff out of it. They got my phone. I know they do because they took my text that I had during that day, and it was at court. So I know that they got my stuff, and they, like I said, they wouldn't even give me back anything. They wouldn't even give me back my reading glasses. I asked 20 times, and everybody, even the judge, said, give her back her glasses, because I couldn't even read. They gave me these court papers, and I can't even read them. I just need reading glasses. When you get a little older, you have a problem. Anyway, whatever. So, and that's, so I was in there for 3 days back and forth, and they put me in the cell, and it's not a pleasant experience, I'll tell you, but it was crazy. I couldn't even get to the phone. They only let me out like once a day, and I made the only call I could make was when I had a chance, and I had to have somebody come and help me to read a number so I could even try. And then guess what? My husband wasn't home. He was at the house. Anyway, it was crazy. So I didn't know if anybody knew. I don't know what anybody knew, and now it's like 3 days, and then I guess my attorney had contacted my family, and so they did know some things, and they were working on other things. And